Present.
Fitton.
Present.
French. Herman.
Here.
Johnson. Kaufman.
Here.
Hensler.
Present.
Kearns. Nee. Lund.
Present.
McCargo. Osborne.
Present.
Parkinson.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Plantenberg.
Here.
Snell.
Present.
Talon.
Here.
Turhall.
Here.
Trendle. Voss.
Here.
Walsh.
Present.
Ward. Present. Williams. Here. Wolf.
Present.
Okay, you all received email of the minutes from the last meeting of last year and last week's minutes. Are there any approval or any corrections to the minutes?
Yeah, small one.
Senator Fitton.
I have a couple of spelling corrections for myself and chief of staff read and closing announcements. So I'm going to object to the board plans of last week's meeting.
Vice President.
Senator Birch also requested her name is corrected as well. If that's okay with you.
I will remove my objection. I'll remove my objection.
I was just wondering if you could approve them, they contingent on those things.
So moved.
Are there any objections to approving the minutes? They're approved. Okay, we'll then move into reports. Rules Committee?
Okay, welcome. I'm glad you all made it. I sent out an email just in case we all knew but we're going to be in the Campanile room, unless you hear differently from me. Okay, so rules met on Monday at 6:10 in the Western office space, and this is where we'll be all the time. We held a few bills in committee, and so we'll kind of be working on those throughout a few of these next weeks. So please come if you can make it, or if you want to know more about those bills, I'd be happy to share some stuff with you as well as everyone else in rules. We also, the bills that we did pass through, we sent them favorably to Senate. And just to clarify what that means is it has nothing to do with that we favor the intent of the bill or necessarily like what's in there. It's just in accordance with the rules. And so that's kind of what Rules Committee does. And so just so you're aware that when it means, when we send it favorably, just in accordance with the rules. And so that's pretty much all I have. So that was meeting.
Finance. Oh, are there any questions for Rules Committee Chair? Finance. Okay. PR.
All right, PR met last night at 6:13 p.m. in room 35 something. Our main thing was talking about Club Fest, which happened today. Great success. We had a lot of people show up that weren't on the schedule, so I was really happy with that. That's nice to hear. But yeah, we had many more people come up to our booth than we've had in the 2 years I've done it. So we got about 75 more people signed up for the email list for the newsletter. We handed out a lot of applications for election commission and finance committee at larges, and also informing people about open Senate seats that we have. So good job to everyone that worked at Club Fest. Thank you again for that. Next, scroll through real quick. You should have all seen the new bulletin board across the West Student Office space. Dan and I went this past weekend and purchased those. We slid money over from daily advertising into printing, so that we can print the trifold, which is at Club Fest, and the new bulletin board. So that came out to roughly, I think, $150 some dollars. So it came out under budget, which was good. Next, we talked about the newsletter. We will be sending that out October 1st. I believe that we have all the article spots filled for the October newsletter. But if you want to be on November, or if we send it on December, just let me know. It's just writing about anything GSB related that your little heart's desire. So if you have any more questions about that, or you have information that you think we should include in the newsletter, talk to me after the meeting, or we can do it after I'm done with this stuff. Facebook update, we are up to 737 likes, so we're doing good progress on that. Next, we briefly talked about the PR account bill, which I didn't know tonight, but we'll talk about that at a later date. And then we also, probably let Spencer talk about this during his remarks, but an update about our video camera situation, what the committee on Election plans on doing. Do you have an update on that?
Sure.
Okay. Spencer will take that, and that is pretty much it, what we talked about in PR, a relatively short meeting. Just a little, kind of what we'll be doing for this semester. We are planning on doing another Meet Your Government Day. That'll be either sometime at the end of October, beginning of November. There's not really many details going out yet. Just did a couple brainstorming sessions during PR this week. So look for another Meet Your Government Day, either at the end of October or the beginning of November. And then also, PR does have an opening for a Senate seat. So please don't all run up at me at once, ask me questions about how to join. Talk to me, you can laugh or not. You can talk to me after the meeting, and I'll fill you in if you're interested in joining PR. Any questions?
Thank you. University Press.
All right, so the doodle that I talked about last week was sent out, and I don't think everyone filled it out, but those who did fill it out, the time was set for Wednesdays from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. So that's our meeting time, I think we're going to start meeting next week. And for those people who didn't fill it out, maybe you should fill it out and see if there's a time that works better for you, since there were a lot of complaints about the time. That's it. So look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you. Finance.
Finance Committee met this week. They met last night at 5 o'clock. We did have a quorum, having all three of our senators present and also our treasurer after a short delay. So, is it up, not on? Am I not talking loud enough?
Talk closer onto it, please.
Gotcha. I apologize for that. Like I said, we met last night. We addressed all the bills that I outlined in our finance memo. I apologize for the lateness of getting that out. However, when we have a meeting on Tuesday, it gives me a little bit less time to complete the memo as it was. Did you all receive that and had a chance to look at it? Otherwise, I can read through it very briefly. It does outline all of the amendments that the Finance Committee made. Some of them are on bills that will be first read this week. It really just depends. That's traditionally how Finance Committee has done it, especially if we know that the bill is coming to us, is that we just handle the bill as it comes through. So, with that, I guess I will take any questions anyone has on the Finance Committee bills, but first I will give you the account balances as I have them right now. Senate discretionary is listed at $14,000. The capital projects account is still listed at the same amount that I emailed you about a month ago. I'm still waiting for the final balancing of that, but it's currently listed at negative $102,000, negative $102,286.50, and the events account is listed at $27,972.92. And with that, I will take any questions. I will issue a reminder that the at-large positions for the Finance Committee are still open. So if you know anyone who would be a good fit, encourage them to fill out the applications maybe on Friday at midnight. I will hopefully be doing as many of the interviews over the weekend as I can, as soon as I return from a leadership retreat after the Student Activity Center on Saturday evening. So basically my weekend will be representing GSB there and doing Finance Committee interviews. So it's a good weekend for me. With that, any questions? Fantastic. I will be in the back if you need me. Let me know.
Vice Speaker.
Good evening, everybody. The only official vice speaker business I have is in regards to the office hour sign up. 12 of you out of 35 didn't listen to 2 emails from me, 2 emails from Gabby, and multiple announcements last week. 12 of you didn't sign up for the office hours, so that's pretty disappointing. I got in a bind with Spencer Hughes, and I had to sign up. We signed me up for what, 15 hours or something during the week to make sure that we were in compliance. That's not cool, guys. So if we can't follow so simple as that, we're going to have to look into some measures to ensure that when you are doing your office hours, that you have to somehow go through some steps to make sure that you check in or do some activity that we all know that you were there. That's kind of a drag, I think. I think we're all adults, but half of us couldn't manage to sign up. So, next week, we'll be announcing exactly what kind of silly requirements we're going to have you do for your office hours. So that's all I got for that. It's kind of bad news. On the lighter side of things, I was president of PR, and I'll just announce to you and everybody, Mr. Voss is interested in helping do the Meet Your Government Day thing again, so that's cool. We talked about that at the PR meeting. Graduate senators too, think about asking GPSS if they'd be willing to maybe chip in some money, and we can rock and roll on that. So what we were thinking, guys, is maybe like some hot soup, chocolate, hot chocolate as well, something like that, since it would be cool. Everybody has any ideas and wants to be involved in that planning, talk to Chairman Bauer or Mr. Voss. You guys have any ideas? And that's all I got. Thank you.
Comments from the executive branch?
Okay. First things first, I just wanted to let you all know that Tom Madsen is my counterpart in the same role at the University of Northern Iowa. And I had originally planned to make a friendly bet with him on the outcome of last Saturday's game, which I was very confident on, but just the way things worked out, I was unable to do so, so I'm feeling pretty lucky right now. But I do plan to set one up with Iowa's president next week, so fingers crossed I won't have to wear black and gold or something like that. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, so I'm just going to run through what happened over the last week and kind of what's coming up for the next week. I do plan to send this out in electronic format. Ideally tonight, perhaps tomorrow morning. I was planning to do this earlier, but something came up that I'll actually get to on my list. So first up, last week, Vice President Kletcher and I met with the leadership of VISHA. We just sat down to talk about really general visions for this upcoming year. The upcoming VISHA celebration is early in the calendar this year, which I think will be nice. So if you have any comments, any thoughts about VISHA as they relate to GSB, feel free to pass those along, and we can, we're working with them closely right now as well. Last week, I guess he is former Chief Justice Ryan Peterson tendered his resignation in that role for the GSB Supreme Court, also informing me that former GSB Supreme Court advisor Dr. Wagner from the Political Science Department is also stepping down from that role. So the Supreme Court currently does not have an advisor. Ryan Peterson wishes to remain as an Associate Justice for the upcoming year to help transition the court because the court will have at least 6 new members if we get it full. So that's a process that I'm beginning. I already mentioned this last week as well. But I'm beginning that in earnest now to recruit some new membership for the Supreme Court. We also had 2 of the new members of the Board of Regents on campus earlier this week, so thanks to those of you who kind of helped out and met with them, Speaker Williams, Finance Director Raditsky. We were around to talk with them as well. They had a great visit. They really appreciated the opportunity that they had to speak with students and with university leadership. Also, it's already over now, but those of you who participated in the Panda fundraiser, thanks for doing that. It's something new for GSB to kind of fundraise money so we don't have to argue about paying for ourselves and for our own food and stuff like that. At least not as much. I'm sure we'll still argue. To get to what Senator Bauer was talking about earlier with the Committee on Lectures video capture system thing. Sorry, I guess I'm stuck in my throat. I think I got into this a little bit last spring but the Committee on Lectures is planning to install a lecture capture system in the Memorial Union. And the relevant aspects to us are that they would like to purchase 2 mobile units that they can move around to different rooms in the Union. And what those will do, they're like state-of-the-art capture video, capture audio, all that stuff. And they're asking for a financial contribution from GSB to help fund those, and in return for GSB assisting with the funding, it's a pretty small fraction of the overall cost. Although the requested number is $5,000, the total project is around 30 or so. In return for GSB providing that funding, we would be guaranteed use of one of the mobile capture systems every Wednesday night. So instead of Senator Bauer having to trek over to the communications building every week, we know that we would have really professional equipment used to capture our meetings. We would put those on the internet, and that would easily be the best system of any student government in the nation to really maintain our transparency and really improve upon that. So I think it's very exciting. That's coming down the pipe pretty soon, so that funding request will be coming at some point. I'll skip that for now. Tomorrow we meaning myself, Finance Director Bissey, Vice President Kletcher, and Vice Speaker Snell, we have an SSFTC meeting, which is the Special Student Fees and Tuition Committee meeting. So it's our last scheduled meeting, so chances are we'll likely approve any of the fee changes that we want to approve that are up for discussion. Those include SciRite asking for an increased fee, GSB asking for an increased student activity fee, the Iowa State Daily requesting their own new fee, as well as a few. Actually, I think there's only one new fee in the common fees, which we discussed last week, the International Student Orientation fee. So we'll report back after that meeting. I know a number of you wanted an update on the website, so I'd like to provide that to you now, since I was able to talk with our webmaster today. He informed me that there's been a lot of issues with IT changed servers over the summer, and what that meant that the downtime was about 4 weeks for what he was trying to do. I'm not a computer person, so I'm not going to pretend to know what I'm talking about. But he said basically that his original timeline was to have the new template layout of the website done by the first day of class, which would have been the 26th, and he was slowed down about 4 weeks, but he's already a little bit ahead of schedule. So I have a new ETA for you of Friday the 13th, that's a week from this Friday. I guess I didn't realize it was Friday the 13th until right now. So hopefully that's not a bad time. But yes, Friday the 13th, by that date, and hopefully earlier at some point next week, our website will be all shiny and new again, and hopefully everything works at that point. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to really talk about that's going on now is in regards to the Kingland Systems Campus Town redevelopment project. This morning I had a meeting with Dr. Hill, and we talked about what we're trying to do moving forward with that project to make sure that student input is really considered in the decision-making process. And we're planning to schedule a town hall meeting of sorts that will be held in the Memorial Union sometime within the next 2 to 3 weeks, whenever scheduling allows. It'll be open to the public. Participants would include Campus Town Student Association President. Ideally, I guess I haven't asked you yet. This is your formal invitation. The City Council Liaison, Alex Harvey, the Student City Council Liaison, as well as representatives from the city, including the mayor and the city manager, representative from Kingland Systems as well, representatives from the university, including Warren Mann and Tom Hill, and just have an opportunity for students to ask questions and learn more about the project as a whole, because it has really become a major issue. I don't use issue in the negative sense. I use it in the sense that students really care about what's going on, and I see that as a positive thing. Students want to have an outlet to really be heard, and that's what I'm trying to facilitate. So hopefully we'll get that scheduled soon, and I will definitely keep you all posted on that as well. That's everything that happened over the past week. Next week, Vice President Kletcher and I will meet with the President of the Faculty Senate. We have a standing meeting about once a month. This is the first of the fall. Next Wednesday, I'll be at the board, Vice President Kletcher and I will be at the Board of Regents meeting in Cedar Falls. So I'll have to deal with all the Panthers up there. That'll be before the Senate meeting next week, so I can check back in next week with what happened. And that will actually be, I have a note here. Today, the Board of Regents released their fiscal year 2015 appropriations request. So that's on the docket for next week's meeting. So if you get a chance to check that out and you have any questions, I'd love to hear them, and I can definitely share them with the Regents and then bring their feedback back to you. So that covers everything for now. Well, actually it doesn't. I have one more note. Like Senator Bauer mentioned, the Facebook page is up to 737 likes. And Director of Communications Lancer is working hard on Twitter over here. They're up to 735 followers. So I figured pretty close. Let's make it a competition. Who can get to 1,000 first? I've incentivized both of them to try to get to 1,000 likes or follows, depending on which platform they're on, and the winner gets a sweet prize. Yet to be determined. So definitely get all your friends to like and follow, and hopefully ask them if they'll share the prize with you. Then you can decide which one you want to help more. Okay, that is actually all I got at this point. So I'll take questions.
Senator Hughes.
All right, two things. First of all, is the Board of Regents, you brought that up, they discussed being more on the appropriating funds based on the number of Iowa residents, not on the number of total students.
That has not been discussed.
Okay. And then second thing is, I was talking to a student club today, students from the student club, and they said that they tried to do their annual or regular pizza sales, and they were informed by risk management that the city of Ames made it so we are no longer allowed to do food sales on campus. So can you explain what happened there?
Sure, I had a conversation with George Michelon about this last week. So I don't know about all the details, but I did hear that pizza sales on campus are no longer allowed for student organizations due to some health regulation of some type. It's a risk management thing. You know, it's funny how many things are risk management things when you really look into them. But yeah, so that is the truth. I don't know if it applies to all food, but I do know that it does apply to pizza sales.
Is that I was told by the student club member, and this may be wrong, I have no idea, but is that by the city of Ames, or is that a risk management?
It's my understanding that it was a university decision, however. Someone may know better.
I've been in contact with the same club president. I was going to talk more during open forum, have more information.
Great.
Yep.
But my information is based on one brief conversation with George Michelon.
Yep.
Senator Finn.
Yeah, Vice President Hughes. I just want to know, I don't know how quick of a fix this would be, but the executive page on the website is literally still being overshadowed by former President Knight. If you click on that, you get the GSB statement regarding racist and threatening tweets. So I didn't know how relevant you would still see that in the current time. Just wanted to know that for you.
Thanks for that. I have been planning on doing my own version of website revamp after the new template was in place, which I anticipate to be at the beginning of the year as well. So once that does happen, I will, if you look at the executive initiatives page, I think that also says coming soon. They've been coming soon for a while, so they're coming soon, I promise.
Hey,
Vice Speaker Scott.
So when you say incentivize, do you mean Chairman Bauer and Director Lanzer individually? Or like executive branch or state branch? Who's winning the prize?
I'm not trying to pick the branches against each other.
Hey, for once, it's a friendly competition.
You think so? What? We'll develop more details,
Okay.
unless one of them can get to 1,000 over the next week.
Because if it's just Zach, then, you know, we can take some bidding too, you know, we can.
We'll figure this out.
All right.
Senator Kessler.
Mayor, Mr. President.
You may.
Have we heard any more on the school board database rewrite? I know that was contentious last year. I didn't know if there's been any progress on that.
I have not received a progress update on that, but I will have one for you next week.
All right, thank you. I yield.
Senator Turnbull.
Madam Vice President.
You may.
So I had a few students ask me about the bike pumps outside the MU. It's obviously missing, along with a few tools. So have you heard anything about that, or is it any fixed, or what's up with that?
The entire pump is missing?
Isn't it back now?
It's not in the back.
Is it back?
Last I saw it was there.
I used the bike pump this morning.
I'm gonna just interject on that. They were doing maintenance on it. That's why it was gone for a few days. It's back now. Speaker Williams.
May I address the president?
You may.
President Hughes, I just wanted to let you know, meeting with the two regents went really, really well. It was an awesome lunch, and they just couldn't stop saying how well it went. One thing that we did discuss there as well was that it was a little bit limited. Like, obviously, they're new and they wanted to meet some of the leadership here on campus, but I think a lot of people would have a lot more questions. And so maybe looking into kind of what we had discussed before, as like a Regents Day, they were really open to doing that and kind of getting more student input and just a few select students, and maybe willing to come out here and do that as well. So just putting that on your radar and maybe on PR's radar as well. Just because people like Senator Nee asking questions like that would be really helpful for them, I think. that student feedback.
Thanks for mentioning that. I'm glad that you had a good time. I just want to, I'm checking a date right now, because one thing I do want to mention on that, our Director of ISU Ambassador, Shannon Goes, and our Assistant Director, Kenton Betts, are planning what they described as kind of a region's administration, kind of a lot of important people with respect to the Iowa State student body, kind of having a Q&A town hall session with them as well. Tentative date has been scheduled Thursday, November 7th, so they'll be working to plan that, and shaking it. The 8th is a Friday, that's why I checked my calendar. So I think it's Thursday the 7th. So anyway, we're going to be planning that, and the captain will be working on that, and we'll definitely contact all the regions and see who'd like to attend. Let's make it a nice, efficient.
And with that, we'll move into open forum. This is time for open discussion for issues relevant to students. Senator Bauer.
Yeah, I forgot a couple things from my report. PR will be meeting in room 3219 here on for the rest of the semester at 6 p.m. So 3219 at 6 p.m. Tuesday, sorry, every Tuesday. Also, just kind of a really small update on the retreat. Just to remind you that it's September 21st from the time frame of 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. You will be fed. It will be a great time. You'll learn a lot. You'll have a lot of fun. So please keep that day open. If you're not going to be able to make it, please come tell me with a good excuse of not being able to make it. We do have another fundraiser next Tuesday. That is the NU Food Court fundraiser. I believe it's from 4:30 to 7. So you just go there, buy a meal bundle, and part of that meal bundle goes back to GSB. So it's really simple. You don't have to turn in a little flyer or anything. You just go up, get a meal bundle, and yeah, that's all you have to do. Also, I sit on the traffic appeals board, so we go through everyone who tries to appeal parking tickets. And since school started again, we've had a lot of problems with people in Freddie Court not knowing that they can park in the lot across from 13th Street, because with the construction, a lot of old lots are filling up fast. So if you do live in Freddie or you have people in Freddie that have been complaining about parking spaces, they can park in the lot across from 13th Street.
Senator Lewin.
I've been ticketed twice parking over there.
Talk to me after.
Okay.
Senator Talley.
A fellow student of mine read the article in the Daily about side-ride drivers and that they could be fired for hitting a student regardless of who was at fault. And he was wondering if there was anything we could do to modify the rules or side-ride regulations about how investigations into hitting students is followed, so that way they don't all automatically lose their job in case someone wasn't looking and ran right in front of the bus inches before it was hitting the kid.
I guess, can you rephrase what you were asking? I followed the whole thing.
Yeah, he didn't believe it was fair that side-ride drivers should automatically be fired regardless of who was at fault.
I can't speak for Cyride on this one, but I would believe that it's probably more of a good faith effort to look like Cyride is attempting to be very cautious about hitting students. I mean, Cyride doesn't want to hit students, that's a bad thing. We'll be very frank about that. But I don't know why that policy is in place. You could certainly send an email to Sherry at Cyride, and she would be more than happy to explain the policy, I'm sure, as well as where that policy came from. But as for the investigation, I'm sure that it's not only internal, but also has to go with the police report that does get made when 911 is called when someone is hit by a Cyride. So.
Senator Turhall.
Alright, so Senator Nee brought up a little bit, but a little more information. So the president of Society of Women Engineers contacted all the engineering senators, and basically they do pizza sales every semester, typically about $150 to $200 a week. So through the whole semester, they're staying with about $2,100. They were informed of the new regulation. They basically submitted their event authorization and was denied on the grounds of a city of Ames regulation, which has to do with vending licenses for sale of food, beverages, other merchandise on public property. Basically, to sell any of that, they need to get proof that all state license occurrence have been applied for, an insurance certificate with $500,000 of liability, and pay a $50 fee, which is good for a year. So personally, I think that's pretty ridiculous that students are asked to jump out through these hoops. I don't know what we at GSB can do, but I definitely think we should do something about it.
Vice Speaker Snell?
Yeah. I had mentioned this to Vice President Warden, a lot of hoops that we have to jump through for events. Since we have an SSFGC meeting tomorrow, I will ask him about it then. We can definitely talk about that. He recognizes the fact that it is exceptionally difficult for a student organization to do anything, let alone fundraise and sell food and things like that. So I think that this is one more straw in the camel's back that will drive us towards reaching some sort of solution. So I'll bring that to him tomorrow, next week. If you don't hear back from me in the office or something, I'll definitely report back.
I think that George McLoone, who's Director of Student Activities, is largely in charge of enforcing this new policy and communicating it. And if that, I think there's kind of two issues: the policy and the lack of maybe communication beforehand that there was a change. Because certainly, I think that a lot of people realize that pizza sales specifically are, do fund a lot of student groups are common on campus. So, yeah, I don't know. I would hope that maybe next meeting we can get George in here to address it, because obviously it's going to be a big financial change for a lot of students.
Senator Turner is still. Oh, sorry. Senator Kenseth.
May I ask a question, Senator Earl?
You may.
Do you know, is it a new policy or one that they're just finally enforcing upon students?
I'm actually not sure. All I know is that when they submit the event authorization, it was denied on those grounds.
Okay, Senator Brody, do you have any more on that?
My understanding is it is a new policy. That, yeah, last year, and specifically I've just heard the language around pizza sales, and so that's why I was a little surprised at the language of that email, because that's very broad, all food sales, like a vendor issue.
That's from the City of Ames website on their policy.
Yeah, so anyway, so I definitely think though that, if that's the email they're sending, because at least in the Student Activity Center, it's just been that pizza sales specifically, or hot food, I guess, was the big issue. And so, yeah, so that they're using that language for it is confusing to me, and also just addressing how it was communicated out here. So I think we should find out.
Thank you.
Senator Benzoni.
I guess I was wondering, do you think this would affect like bake sales? Because this seems like it has potential to affect a huge number of clubs.
Senator Turner, do you want to address that question?
As it's written in the articles, as food, beverage, or other merchandise on public property. So that's offered product.
Vice Speaker Snell.
Yeah, can you forward me that what you're reading?
Yeah.
What you're reading? Okay, that'd be good.
Yes, Speaker Williams.
Senator Rob, you talked to Alex Harvey at all, because she's our city council liaison. I would assume that if anything, she could get more information for you on that. And also, getting a vending license, that's just something the city requires. Like, that's why on campus town it's harder to do stuff too. But so I wouldn't assume that it's like a new policy. It just sounds like you're just enforcing it now, like Senator Kenseth would be saying. So the lack of communication, like you guys have said. So speak with Alex and see if she knows a little bit more about that.
Speaker Williams.
Does anyone have anything else on that? Okay, then I would request unanimous consent of the Senate to add a bill to the agenda. And this bill number is Senate Bill 2013-2-027, funding UHURU magazine.
Are there any objections? Vice Speaker Snell.
Okay, at this time I ask unanimous consent of the Senate to add bills 2013-28, that'd be F, adjusting account allocations, and
Are there any objections? Okay.
All right, and the second one is 2013-029F, transferring funds to the capital projects account.
Are there any objections? Anything else for open forum? With that, we'll move into special orders. We are now on Senate Order 2013-28-SG, seating a senator on Finance Committee.
Senate Order 2013-2-028SG, seating a senator on the Finance Committee. Whereas the Finance Committee acts as a sanction representative.
Move to consider agenda.
Second.
Are there any objections?
Okay, I will then open the floor for nominations.
I object. I will move to table bill to the end of general orders because we have to consider.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yes.
Is there any objection to UC to table that? And with that, we are on Senate Order 2013-29-SG, at-large members of Finance Committee.
All right, Senate Order 2013-2-029SG, seating the at-large members of Finance Committee.
Move to consider.
And I will also ask the Senate UC to move this to the end of new business as well.
Is there any objection to moving that to end of business?
Unless there's anybody.
Everybody here.
No, you need to table it till next week.
And with that, we are on Senate Bill 2013-2-012F, funding French Alliance.
Title, Funding Cycling Bridge Alliance. I want to answer a couple questions before I turn it over to the group who is here today. To answer Senator Johnson's question in a sense, the group was previously named Cycling French Alliance just within the past week. Their official designation underneath the student organization database is now French Club, ISU French Club, and so that is part of an amendment along with the table change on the bill from the Finance Committee, and we'll turn it over to the group at this time to speak on the bill.
Yeah, please take the podium.
Does anyone have any questions?
Vice Speaker Snell.
Thank you, my address to you.
You may.
Explain what this is for, Lauren. Let everybody know what's going on here.
Basically, this bill is for, so our club can become stronger. Last year, we did not have all that much money. I think that we had around a total $125 to spend for the whole year. As you can imagine, with the French Club, a lot of the cultural activities that we do are centered around food, as food is often a very central point to a culture in general. With that, we would like to be able to offer more diverse things. I know it might sound kind of strange that we would like this funding for food. It's one of the things that we would like, and as you can imagine, the different specialty things we'd like to provide. Otherwise, we'd like to offer more diverse activities. We tend to offer around 2 major events per month. And up until this point, they're going to be funded by the cabinet, but we would, of course, enjoy greater funding to do a greater variety.
Did you say 2 events a month?
I'm sorry?
Did you say 2 events a month?
Yes.
Okay. What would one of those events look like? If I came to this, what would be going on?
Well, you would probably be, depending on the event, you might be asked to speak French. Otherwise, we do offer a variety of events. Some of them are simply cultural appreciation. So you might eat with your fellow French Club participants. You may enjoy a movie or a speaker based on some part of French culture, maybe a scientist, whatever, some kind of speaker to further appreciate the culture and also perhaps speak some French.
Great. Would this event be like in the MU, or would it be on the central campus?
In the past, we've held events in Pearson, usually in the 3rd floor LSRC. We've also held them in the African American Cultural Center.
French Alliance, Cyclone French Alliance statements to IRC French Club, since that is how they work previously. Also, it'll be changing $630 in the GSB slot and $210 in the student org, for a total allocation of $746, which I will get up in a second.
Point of parliamentary inquiry, do we need to consider those separately?
They were,
It's a committee amendment made by the finance committee.
So, with that, we are in discussion of the amendment.
Question. Second.
check until we see the actual number.
Question.
Okay. For the finance director, Tim, how do you want this to look? Because the way it says $630 in the GSB column, correct?
In the food line item, yes.
In the food line.
I apologize for not
Okay.
giving my memo.
No, that was probably my fault.
While we're on discussion amendment, Senator Me.
Direct question to group.
Yes.
So is this food event, I'm assuming international or ethnic food event?
Yes,
Okay,
and we generally offer them at many of our events, not just one.
okay. So then to finance, was this computed using the formula?
Correct.
Okay.
Senator Fitting.
As a clarification for Senator Nee mentioned in passing, in priorities and criteria, PNC document we use for our funding guidelines, there's a formula that we use for groups when they are seeking funding for food. It has to be, first of all, international or ethnic, for us to consider food items for them to be in order. And then it's 5 times 4 times the amount of the group, amounts of people in the group according to SOAR database, and then you take that number times 0.75. So it would be 3/4 of their entire funding, according to PNC. And that's what this amendment will look like as well. Other than that, I'll just mention that the other line items are pertaining to the whereas clauses. The group did have some communication errors with the previous finance director, Vanderbilt, and how to go through the regular allocations process. So the other items are items we would typically find through regular allocations as well. And with that, I will leave.
Speaker Williams.
So that's essentially what it'll look like. You can add up the total. So this is pretty much what it looks like. And make sure Senator Fenton speak.
Senator Kensler.
I just have a question. Is the food line item the only one we changed? We changed it to 630, right? That's on the screen. All right. I think the total is off by $10. It says, or in the finance memo, I think it's off. Do we have 736 up there? How you?
Senator Me.
Was it the intention of the finance to clarify the food line item would be international or ethnic food? Just clarification.
I will accept that as a friendly amendment. This is changing.
Still on discussion. Senator Kensler.
Question on the amendment.
UC has been called. Is there any objection to UC? The amendment passes. We are now back on discussion of the bill as a whole. Chief Staff Reed.
May I go through?
You may.
How much do you guys tend to spend on a food event for food?
We have not been able to spend all that we had liked to in the past, and that we have not been able to offer the full range of something that one might consider great French cuisine. I mean, within limits, of course.
Okay.
I think before, let's see, do we have receipts on that?
I don't, but we normally spend around like 60.
Normally around 60.
Okay. Do you guys anticipate spending the entire $630 on one food event?
No.
Just addressing the Senate as a whole, I just wanted to draw your attention to part of PNC. Requests for international ethnic food for events will be considered only if open to the public and will be limited to one event per organization per year. And so you guys, as a group, may want to consider perhaps reducing the number of events and having a larger one. But if this is to be spread out amongst multiple events, there's not just like a problem. I yield.
Can I address it here?
You may.
Do you guys collect dues?
No, we don't.
How else do you get funding?
The cabinet pays for it.
Okay, I yield.
Senator Finn. Senator Snow.
Thank you. To address what Chief of Staff just said, is absolutely correct. I just want to remind everybody who's new, PNC is non-binding. I'm trying to break your allocations. Has it changed? Excellent. Okay, great. Never mind.
So Claire, Senator Finn, can you please make a
Pretend I didn't say that.
PNC is binding during all times of the year.
Senator Finn.
I asked you to attend because I was trying to find it in the budget. I think there is precedent of having multiple events throughout the year. If I went through the regulars process on and on. That notwithstanding, I was just going to talk on food overall. As someone who went through the regular allocations process last year, I was going to vote consistent with my votes during that time and vote no for this bill because I don't believe we should be funding food. That is how it are voted at that time. That's how I'll vote now. If Senate does want to consider the PNC rules, I don't think it would necessarily reflect on the group to have one event versus the amount of events that they do have, generally just because these are smaller in scale and are still open to the public, all carpentering students, etc. So that notwithstanding, Senate consider what the Chief of Staff has laid on the table, but I just wanted to clarify that I know that would be consistent with what it is that I have here in the regular allocations process. So with that, I yield.
Senator Warren.
May I address the group?
You may.
Bonsoir, bienvenue à notre rendez-vous. I do have a question. Does the group participate in any fundraising events throughout the year?
I don't think that we do.
Okay, and then a question regarding the food. Would it be particularly snacks for maybe watching a film, or would the event focus around appreciating the cuisine and discussing its foundations and where it's eaten? Is it primarily about the food, or is it another activity with food as a side?
It is usually about the food. Last year we had a very successful crepe night, which was delicious. You are all invited. And generally, trying to keep them as roughly as authentic as possible.
Okay, before we move on, I will just say, as a reminder to everyone to please speak loud while we're in this room. It is a large room, and I really want Zach to be able to take good minutes. So that would just be much appreciated if you could just speak up while we're discussing anything in the room. Thank you. Senator Neal.
Okay, so this is going off memory of 2 years ago. So if someone has PNC in front of them, is the formula for international ethnic foods not factoring in the verbiages of dues paying members? Is it not?
Senator Finn.
The verbiage or the language is the number of group student members. So that is, it's been interpreted by finance throughout my entire time as the number that we have on the student organization database website.
Okay, not the number of dues paying members?
Correct.
Still on discussion. Senator Kinsler. Senator Bauer.
May I address the group?
You may.
This might have been asked, some wasn't in here, but how much does it cost per event, did you say, roughly?
When we're focusing on the food groups, we're trying to spend, I think, $60.
That's okay. All right.
Senator Neal.
So if we pass it as is, we're breaking PNC, which is now binding. So I'm going to move to amend. How much did you say? Or okay, can I address the group?
You may address the group.
So given the choice between having one $60 food event or one $630 food event,
Yeah, I'll go with the latter.
Okay, so then, but understanding, do you understand the rules there, that we, in our rules, we allow for only one event?
Yes. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to use that $630 on other things, or I guess that's allocated elsewhere in our budget?
Or finance director this week.
Okay, so GSB allocations are allocated to specific line items. So if we allocated $630 for food, we should spend it on food because misspending allocated funds hopefully will end up with your club not only getting the money that you didn't spend correctly reclaimed, but it will end up with your group in debt in a certain way. So if you have questions about that, I can explain it outside of the meeting better.
Senator Turhall.
I just wrote a question for Senator Fitton, their Finance Director University. Was I correct in hearing that there was one event per semester and this bill is for the entire year, so they could split it in one event in the fall and one event in the spring?
To answer your question, or I think the group can more accurately answer it, it was multiple events throughout the year, so it's not just one event per semester, excuse me, but I can yield more on
Senator Boss.
Well, with the discussion, I'm going to make an amendment to this. Since it's $60 for what we have a small event, but $630 is a lot of money for one French event, I'll make it an extra spectacular $120 GSB fund for food, move 630 to 120.
Second.
Okay, we are now on discussion of the amendment. As a reminder, that's changing the GSB food allocation from 630 to 120. Discussing the amendment only, Senator Turhall.
I think that that leaves them the option to hold either one big event or just hold a regular event at $60. I think it's a good compromise.
Senator Fitton.
I'd like to note two things. Just first of all, the language we're using when we're saying funding, I think not entirely sensitive to the group at times. And then second of all, I think the compromise that we're currently making isn't according to the formula in PNC because we would only do 75% of the total cost. So it would be my inclination if I were voting for the food period to leave it as is at the 750 and leave that with the discretion of the group. That I yield.
Senator Jordan.
All right, I'm going to do three. I think that this is too low, personally, but I do think that the initial investment or the initial funding amount is too high given the single event parameter. So I'm not going to move to amend anything, but I would think that a higher number around 300, in the 300 range.
Senator Ward.
May I address the group? Do you have an event idea in mind for the single event?
And I missed it. Is this one event per year or one event per semester? Year. Okay. Not at the moment, no.
I yield.
Senator Fitton.
I will apologize to Senate for this. This was my misreading of PNC that brought about the circumstances. Apologize for the group for bringing you into this as well. At this time, I'm going to move to table the amendment in the bill so we consider this for another week with the group and talk this over. So first, I move to table the amendment.
Okay.
UC.
Is there any objection to UC? Senator Turhall.
I move to table the bill.
Is there any objection to UC? This bill is tabled.
Thank you.
Are you guys available next week?
Yes.
Okay, all right, just want to be sure. Thanks, we'll see you next week.
See you. And with that, we're on Senate Bill 2013-2,
Washington Beach, Iowa Bash, Senate Bill 2013-2-013F.
Okay, we're now discussing this bill as a whole. I see we have some members of the group present. Vice Speaker Snell.
I would like to yield to Caitlin and her group.
Excellent.
Thank you. All right, so my name is Caitlin Heinen, and I last year was on Ferguson Court Community Council as an at-large representative, and this year I am a Ferguson Court CA for the 50s cluster.
My name is Sabrina Leahy. I'm part of the Ferguson Court Community Council. I serve as the treasurer. I'm also a CA in the 60s cluster. Caitlin and I are here tonight to tell you a bit about our event that's coming up on September 13th. So Caitlin's going to explain a bit about that, and then we welcome any questions that you have.
So, for the Beat Iowa Bash, it's kind of as awesome as it sounds. It will be held Friday, September 13th, before the home Iowa State Iowa game on Saturday, and it's from 6 to 9 p.m. on that night. Kind of think tailgate meets small town carnival. Lots of things going on, lots of really fun things for students to do. It's open to students across campus, and it's a nice way to provide an alternative source of entertainment, to come together, celebrate our Cyclone Pride, and celebrate that long-standing rivalry we have with the Hawkeyes. So some things will be featured at the event. We'll have a DJ to play music throughout the event while people are going to, we have a foam pit. We also have hopefully a Jacob's Ladder, as well as a couple other inflatable type things. We'll have a Dunk a Hawkeye dunk tank. There'll be a car smash. There's food giveaways, thanks to ISU Dining's collaboration. There'll be proud to be a cyclone wall. We've been working with Student Alumni Leadership Council on a lot of these things. We'll have entertainment provided by Dance Marathon, as well as the Volleyball Dance Club. So a lot of involvement from a lot of different groups, and a really great way to celebrate the amazing Iowa State culture that we have, and getting students involved and providing these events to celebrate our school pride.
We'll tell you a bit about the numbers that we're expecting. This is the third year we've had the event. So for the past 6 years, every other year when the home game's here at Iowa State. The first event was in 2009. We had about 500 in attendance. The next year, 800. This year, we're expecting over 1,200 attendees. So definitely something that students are looking forward to attending each year. And like Caitlin mentioned, it's open to the entire Cyclone community. So we promote it. It's on Frederickson Court property, but the entire university or Cyclone community is welcome to attend, and that's who we've been promoting the event to.
Senator Johnson.
Yeah, can you clarify what you mean by foam pit and Jacob's Ladder, for those that's left up on Facebook?
Okay, so a foam pit, think of, it will probably be as big as filling in the middle of this thing. And now think of the suds that come out when you accidentally put dishwasher soap in your dishwasher and not detergent, like that. So it will be like dancing kind of area in that. A Jacob's Ladder is, the best way I can describe it is, think of a ladder, horizontal, but there's only two endpoints, so it kind of rotates and swivels a little bit. So your goal is to race your partner or friend or whoever across to get to the top of it, but odds are you'll probably fall onto the mat below you. So there's that. There's also, hopefully we're looking to get funded Euro Bungee, which is essentially you're strapped into what looks like rock climbing gear, and you have this trampoline, and you can jump some 30 feet into the air for 5 minutes if you'd like to. And then there's, what's the other one I'm missing? Bungee Sports Challenge. Your classic post-prom type thing where you're on like a bungee cord and you have to race your teammate to, I think it's put a basketball through the hoop on the other end of the inflatable.
I would like to propose the Finance Committee amendment. And so what we're going to do is take the ISU CS gift card, Beat Iowa Game Day Teachers, and ISU Dining gift cards, and fund them at $0. And then we will put in a second, you'll see Jacob's Attraction Ladder, which is what they just spoke about, and that'll be $795. And so with all of that, the total that we'll be funding is $2,998. And I'll get that out in just 2 seconds.
We're now on discussion of the amendment. Wait, was that amendment? Was there a second?
It doesn't need a second.
No. Thank you. Okay, well, now we're on discussion has been called on the amendment. Is there any objection to UC? Amendment passes. Senator Fensworth,
May I address the group?
you may.
Hi guys. I just had a quick question. As far as, I know last time that this funding, the Meet Iowa Bash was held out in Pretty Court, it was a great success. And at that time I lived out there, and I know it attracted a lot of people. But we, as GSB, funded exactly $1,000 for that. So I was just trying to figure out why the costs tripled for this year's event. If you have any idea or can speak to that, that'd be much appreciated.
Well, it's kind of to speak on what Sabrina said. This has kind of become a Frederickson Court tradition to host this for Iowa State students. We're getting a reputation. It's a great event. It brings a lot of students. We're also in a growing community. 2 summers ago, I was a Cyclone aide and entered in the largest freshman class we've ever seen. Then here comes Kyrie. He's the next Cyclone aide class, and they have the next greatest class. So we want to make this event bigger, and we would like to seek this extra help in that regard because, yeah, we can do it like we've done in past years, but then it's bare minimum and it's not catering to as many students as we'd like to and what we're expecting. Nate Dauble's attendees, what he says attended, he said over 1,000 attended in 2011. So we are expecting close to 1,000 people, and to be able to keep that many students engaged, entertained, and having this fun, social, alternative form of entertainment, we need to make it bigger, and we'd like to really fill all of that green space in Frederickson Court.
Thank you, Amy.
Senator Ward.
May I just agree?
Yes.
Hi. Will there be a fee to students to attend the event?
No, the only fee item is the car smash, but that is because that's hosted by the fraternity, Alpha Sigma Phi. So that is their event, and that's how they do their fundraising. Otherwise, everything is free.
All right. More importantly, do you think this will help us beat the Hawkeyes?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have Jeff Johnson and Tom Hill confirmed. It's a given.
Okay. I yield on that.
Still on discussion? Senator Townsend.
Do you know if CIRAD still runs, would run, or to get students at that living ready sport over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, the siren will still run, that 21 Cardinal route, that will still run. It's going to be rerouted a bit because we'll have attractions and all sorts of excitement kind of in the way of it, but it will still run past Frederickson Court throughout the day.
Senator Voss.
The Euro bungee, what did you have before as far as entertainment? Is this an addition? Is this additional?
This is new.
Okay. Being that GSB is, we have a lot less funding this year, I would feel more comfortable passing this bill without funding, as fun as it sounds. And so I move to amend the 2,000 for funding and bring that to zero fund that 2,000 for the Euro funding.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We are now in discussion of the amendment. That would be, the amendment would change the 2,000 from GSB for Euro Bungee to 0. Discussion on the amendment. Vice Speaker Stein.
Mayor Skirt.
You may.
Caitlin, if we zero funded the Euro Bungee, would you still be able to have it?
Yes, we'd still be able to have the event, but our, just to kind of explain our reasoning for having the new attractions that we do have in place of the old one that we did, the out-of-company entertainment that we have provides statistics on how many students they can get through in an hour on these attractions. This was one of the higher numbered ones.
So if we zero funded this very specific thing, you would not be able to have the Euro Bungee at all?
No.
So it'll be cut from the program entirely?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Mead.
How much, to give some comparison, how much is the total event budget overall?
The total cost of the event, if the Euro Bungee is included, would be $7,500.
Okay, so Frederickson Court is paying for over $5,000 of it, or what's the total?
2,900.
Okay, so they're paying for over 4, so they're paying for over 2/3 of the budget. Okay.
Senator Townsend.
I feel like we should not amend it to 0 and keep it at 2,000 because I feel like we'd be going back now. Not to say like okay, yes, we would be going back there. I saw an advertisement just today about how we would have 30 inflatables and stuff to do there, like bungee jump or bungee run, whatever. This beat Iowa Bash, and so I think we should follow through on that.
Senator Turnbull.
I'd just like to speak against the amendments. I think that there's really not a better event that we could do than to bring all the students together. It seems like a really fun event, and I don't see why we should cut out one of the main attractions if we don't need to.
Senator Benzoni.
Permission to address the group.
Yes.
So I think that Senator Voss here brought up a good point. We are trying to cut down on our funding. However, I agree we don't want to cut out this wonderful thing entirely. Do you guys see a reasonable alternative that would maybe not be as fun, but a good alternative that's a little bit cheaper than the Euro bungee?
I mean, our thought process with the ones that we chose, we decided to go with 2 big attractions. And the one we couldn't do without was the foam pit. So that one's about $1,500, and we are funding that from council funds. And to make it bigger this year, we want to have 2 big ones. And so that's our thought process behind that. I understand kind of the need to cut budgeting, and I understand like it's tight. It's just money gets that way. But if you think about, we have homecoming, we have a lot of these big events, and I think this one is definitely very characteristic of that Iowa game. And I think that the fact that we get to host that is a real honor to do that for students. And I think to make that better and really set that precedent for years to come, that this is what you do before the Iowa game. We all go out to Frederickson Court and celebrate our Cyclone pride and our Hawkeye rivalry. I think that this could be a real potential for that starting point.
I'll also add something. Are there other options of attractions that we could have? Yes, but we've already contracted with this company, and currently they have this one attraction, the Euro Bungee, on hold for us. So it's an all or nothing right now. If we were to have explored other options before regarding things that would have been cheaper, we could have reserved those if this GSB funding for the Euro Bungee didn't go through. But it's an all or nothing right now. Either we receive the funding and we're going to have this Euro Bungee, or it's not going to be there and there won't be an attraction to replace it.
Finance Director Disky.
I just wanted to make sure and talk about one of the points that came up. I do understand that the group's advertising already went out. That being said, I don't think that's a great reason to fund anything just because they've already advertised something that they're asking for us funding for. That being said, I think you should consider that under the other arguments that have been presented. So I just want to make sure that we don't end up in some dangerous territory there. That's a precedent you don't want to set. So, looking out for you.
Senator Kinsley.
May I address the group?
You may.
I know you guys mentioned the foam pit and the car smash ran by one of the fraternities or sororities. I'm not sure which one. What other, I guess, attractions do you guys have at this event?
ISU Police will have a climbing wall as well as beer goggles. So that's kind of always a popular one. They'll do different activities with that. They will, I think it's facilities planning and management, our maintenance guys. They're the ones who are building the Proud to be a Cyclone wall for us. Because they love doing projects like that. They're doing the quarterback toss as well as a giant pong game. They have been able to locate trash cans, and we're going to color them red to do that, and so that'll be really neat. We also have, ROTC does the climbing wall, and ISU Police does the beer goggles. What else am I missing?
Sure, we have a photo booth plan that's through the Department of Residence. They bring that to Welcome Fest, same kind of thing. Just things for. We also mentioned the dunk tank earlier. You mentioned the car smash already. We also have the big highlight of the event really is the Spirit Rally, the Spirit Pep Rally, and there we'll have guest speakers. We're this year bringing entertainment in from Dance Marathon as well as the Bollywood dance group, SAI, the Cheer Squad, Pep Band, and other special guests will also be in attendance for that Spirit Rally portion of the event.
Okay. With that being said, I think it's going to be a great event. I think it's going to be a success whether we fund the Euro Bungee or not. However, because of the situation that we're in financially, as well as the I'm just not comfortable funding 3 times the amount of what we funded last time. I am in support of the amendment, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Senator Allen.
Just once again, I'd like to say that I'm against this amendment, and because we are having more freshmen every year setting records for the biggest class, I feel like we should not skip out on this event, show our full support, and make some memories for these new students and coming students, show them what a good time Iowa State looks like on the weekend. It's a safe alternative.
Senator Bauer. Senator Meade. May.
So it sounds like there's some contention between funding it either 2,000 or 0. Would there be some compromise if we funded a portion of it, let's say like 75% or something like that? Could you guys cover the remaining cost, or do you not have any money? I don't know what your accounts are.
The proposal brought towards the committee was that either GSB funded this Bureau Bungee attraction or we wouldn't go with it, because this is a huge portion of our council budget already, and we don't want to spend any more out of our council budget, even if it was only for a portion of this attraction. So it's still all or nothing.
Okay.
Senator Birch.
I remember one of my first assignments when I worked at the Daily was writing something about the Iowa Bash 2 years ago. And what I liked about it was an alternative to some of the other extracurricular activities that we all know go on here. But if you aren't necessarily into that scene, it gives you a way to have some spirit, get involved with something, but again, not necessarily getting into a scene that you don't necessarily want to be a part of. So I understand the financial bind of it, but I think it's a good thing for students. Being one of those students who in the past didn't necessarily want to get too crazy, I would have loved having something like this when I was an undergrad. So keeping that in mind, I'll leave it to you.
Senator Bauer.
And I will call the question.
Second.
Question has been called and seconded. We are now voting on the amendment. We are going to do a placard vote. So at this time, placards on the floor, yes. And as a reminder, yes means changing the 2008. Down, up. Down, up for abstentions. And this amendment fails by a vote of 10, 15 to 2. Amendment fails. So that means the total will stay at 2,000. With that, we are back on discussion of the bill as a whole. Senator Bauer.
May I address a question to the Finance Director?
You may.
Finance Director Daniel, did you say that their advertisements were already put out and this would be reimbursing them for that?
I think that depends on the interpretation and or what the group is planning on doing. So you might want to ask the group that question.
May I address the group?
You may, Senator Bauer.
Group, did you already send out a daily advertisement and or mass email and or flyer distribution?
Only the flyer distribution, and we only named those inflatables that are funded by council.
Okay.
Senator Pitt.
In the epic words of FDR, sometimes I'm asked to write bills that I don't agree with. I'm still asked to write them. Didn't agree with the title of this one, but with that being said, I will move to, or I will call the question.
Second.
Let me get my voting card ready. We're now voting on this bill as a whole. Yes means want to pass, no means you don't want to. Abstain means abstain. Bauer.
Yes.
Benzoni.
Pass.
Breitbart,
Yes.
Brody,
Abstain.
Birch,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Peasley,
No.
Fitton,
Yes.
Kerman,
No.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Hensler,
No.
Kearns,
Yes.
Nee,
Abstain.
Lund,
Yes.
Osborne,
Abstain.
Parkinson,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yep.
Plettenberg,
Yes.
Snell,
Yes.
Talon,
Yes.
Turhall,
Yes.
Voss,
No.
Walsh,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Williams, yes, Wolf.
No.
Oh, Benzoni,
Yes.
did I miss anyone else? Sorry, counting those right now. By a vote of 19-5 to 3, this passes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. As a reminder to the senators, before we move on, when you're voting, please say yes or no clearly so that we can use our ear up here. And,
Sorry about the going so.
typically, one
Have a
thing
good night.
to think about when you're abstaining is just abstain if you actually have conflict with something in the bill. That's all we got. Then we will move on to Senate Order 2013-2-016Y, establishing current revision of Robert's Rules.
Senate Bill 2013-2-016Y, title establishing current revision of Robert's Rules of Order as the Parliamentary Authority. Whereas Chapter 4, Section 1 of the Government Student Body Bylaws currently states, parliamentary authority for the Senate and all Senate committees shall be the Robert's Rules of Order newly revised, 10th edition, etc., unless special rules are delineated in these bylaws. And whereas Robert's Rules of Order has been revised to the 11th edition at the time of this legislation, and whereas it is an unnecessary expenditure of the Senate's time to revise this bylaw provision every time Robert's Rules of Order is revised, be it therefore enacted that 4.1 of the bylaws be changed to state, parliamentary authority for the Senate and all Senate committees shall be the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, unless special rules are delineated in these bylaws.
We are now on discussion of the orders. President Hughes.
I guess I'm not going to direct a comment specifically at someone, but I'll just put this out there and hopefully someone will answer it. If the new version is available to view online, let me know. So you can just nod, I guess, or shake your head if you know. If it's free to view online, then that's fine. But if you can't see it online for free, which I think we ran into an issue of this before, this is the classic governmental unfunded mandate where we don't have the rules that we're going to follow, and we don't have any money to pay for them either. So that's something that you should keep in mind. But if it's free to find online, then that's not an issue. I'm not sure if that's the case.
Senator Kensler.
I'm not sure if it's free online either, I'll be honest with you. But I don't think it's necessarily needed. And I'll explain why. I think that the confusion we have with the rules is going to be solved by updating the rules. Very little changes, as you know, Senator Vice Speaker Snell, very, very little changes within the versions, maybe the wording. It's a lot like textbooks, the new version comes out, not a lot's changed, although it costs significantly more than the old version. And I don't think that the GSB needs to be spending money on the new version every time it changes, because it doesn't fundamentally change So if there is a major change, we can visit it at that time, but I don't think it needs to be automatically updated. I don't think that's where the confusion lies in the rules. I think it's just simply not knowing Robert's rules, and I think it could actually make the problem worse by changing the edition every time a new one comes out. Seasoned senators will be going off of something that they learned, which is going to be completely different than what the new ones are learning, and it's just going to cause even more confusion. So I am not in support of this. Thank you.
Senator Brody.
I am in support of this bill. I think that it is just responsible practice in parliamentary procedure to keep up with the most recent edition of Robert's Rules. It's true, yeah, I mean, the changes are not radical from publishing to publishing over the past, but anyway, it gets revised about once every decade. And I think that that's a fine time scale to buy new books, to hopefully increase interest in maybe reviewing the documents that we provide to senators informally and just square them. Because although the actual rules very seldomly change and usually very slightly in non-significant ways, it is definite. I mean, I was familiar with the 9th edition moving to the 10th edition. They made significant changes that made it easier to use, easier to read. I mean, they do republish for a reason. So I think that, I think that this is a good practice for the body. It's the state of the art of parliamentary procedure. I don't know, kind of ironic, but anyway, so yeah, I would highly, highly, highly encourage adopting this motion. And it's 3 books every roughly 10 years. I don't think that is a large financial consideration in any.
Vice Speaker Snell.
Okay, just to address Senator Kensler's direct address of me in regards to this. I didn't necessarily write this because I'm in favor of it. I wrote it because we discussed it in Rules Committee. And it's kind of my job. I'm kind of sort of the secretary of the Senate, and this is what I do. You know, when people have ideas, I can put them on paper and we can discuss them. So this comes from Rules Committee. Having said that, I agree with Senator Brody. They're only revised once every decade. We only need 3 books. It's not a huge burden for us to get them. But if the Senate is going to be petty about it, I guess worst case scenario, I can buy 3 sets of them because they're a penny on Amazon. So this isn't really a huge burden on anybody, including myself. So I'd be willing to donate them in the interest of not spending half an hour debating it. So just a little bit of that.
Senator Meade.
So yeah, if cost is going to be an issue, I mean, I just looked on the Iowa State Library and the Robert's Rules of Order are available in the library. It's free to us. So I don't really know why you're worrying about buying a book when it's just free right there. So that's not really an issue we decide to buy with us.
Senator Kensler.
Just as a point of clarification, the reason that you need to buy them is we need 3 copies in the office. I believe that's, I know it's in the bylaw that it's mandated by the University of ISU or for some reason.
Put in information, can you cite the bylaw? Just for reference.
And then another point of clarification would be that the old edition is a penny, not the new one, it's $13. I'll find that out.
Senator Finney.
I just wanted to say at this time that I would like to see funding for the actual books if we're going to pass it, kind of that not unfunded mandate. And when you cited the library, I guess what was your, I'll give this Senator Meade to answer the question, what was your point that we could go get it? Like we couldn't keep it in the office if we've got it in the library. So use and 3 copies of that.
Senator Meade, yeah, can you agree?
Books in the library, check it out, go look at it, I don't know.
Senator
That was my point.
I guess my point is like we literally have to keep the 3 copies in the office at all times, so checking it out.
Okay, I was aware of that, so.
President Hughes.
I guess I'm going to yield to Senator Kensler. Hopefully he's found the bylaw he referenced because I just looked for it as well.
I've not found it yet. some reason 3 copies sounds like, I know.
President Hughes, you still have 4.
Thank you. I promise I will rarely do this, and I am not totally comfortable doing it right now. But I will tell you now that I will not sign a bill that makes us follow rules that we don't have in our possession. So you can figure that out yourself. But the bill as written now would not get a signature.
Senator Brody.
Vice Speaker Snell, I believe in the questions of intent, when this was brought to the floor, you did mention having possibly brought up on a bill, or would be, I don't know.
Yeah, we can amend it, guys, that's fine. That's what you're asking.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess then, yeah, that's another question, is can I put a funding item in here?
It is certainly your right to do so.
All right, I guess I've heard some costs thrown around, but, yeah, I'd like to add another enacted clause that we do purchase 3 copies of Robert's Rules of Orders, and someone quote me a price. Yeah.
Senator, you have a price.
I have a price on abesbooks.com at $10.23 a copy.
So, yeah, I'd like to amend this, add an enacted clause that, yeah, is there shipping? Either way, we can just reclaim what we don't spend on. So I'll just say be enacted that $40 be allocated to purchase 3 copies of Robert's Rules of Order. 11th edition.
Is there a second on the amendment?
Second. Point of order, the motion is out of order for funding mechanisms and the bylaw.
That's what, okay, that's what I was kind of trying to get at earlier. I withdraw my,
So the amendment has been withdrawn from the floor. We are back on discussion of the bill as a whole. Senator Fitt.
Can I receive it here to say that, can we just table this for a week? Is that okay? I'll move to table. Second. You see.
Anyone opposed to table? For 1 week?
Just keep the shit out of the bill.
Bill is tabled. That we're on Senate Resolution 2013-2-025 SR, supporting student fee for fiscal year, is that 2015? 2015.
All right, Senate Resolution 2013-2-025 SR. Titled Supporting the GSB Student Fee Proposal for Fiscal Year 2015. Whereas Senator Barry Snell is the governor of the student body Senate representative to the ISU Special Student Fees and Tuition Committee, joining Finance Director Dan Radisky, President Spencer Hughes, and Vice President Lori Fletcher, in representing the GSB on the same. And whereas Senator Snell has received the advice and consent of the Senate and worked with Finance Director Radisky, President Hughes, Vice President Fletcher, over the summer to determine the GSB service needs of the student body. And whereas together they have analyzed student fee revenue, increasing demands for services supported by GSB, multiple years of inflation and other factors, and as a result have determined, with our approval, a modest increase of the student fee of 4.99%, equating to $1.76 per student per semester. Be it therefore resolved that the GSB Senate supports the proposed increase of the student fee as presented to the ISU SSFEC. And be it also resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the following people, which you can read. And be resolved that President Hughes may also present this resolution of our support of this small increase of Board of Regents at a time he deems most appropriate.
We're now in discussion of the resolution. President Hughes.
Thank you. I'm going to yield to FDR.
FDR, you got it.
Okay, I don't have the line right in front of me, but where it specifies the 4.99% equaling the $1.76, it might be most effective if a support was given to the delegation from GSB to pursue up to whatever cap he would like to set. So say that 4.99% falls under 5%, he would like to say up to the cap. So in case there are negotiations that take place, we're not technically unsupported, but will be supported up to that and no further by this resolution, if you follow what I'm saying.
We're on discussion of the resolution as a whole. Senator Kinsler.
I like the resolution as a whole. I think it's long overdue, that we have a very, what I would consider a very modest increase in student fees. And as a point of personal privilege, I like my name added to the bill.
President Hughes, are you waving your card?
I'm just looking at everyone else's, but since I got recognized. Someone should really make that amendment that FDR recommended, because that'd be good, so I yield.
Okay, I'd like to propose an amendment. Instead of saying student fee increase of 4.99, just increase of up to 5%. If I'm following.
Sure.
We're now on discussion of the amendment. President Hughes.
Question to the speaker, does your amendment include striking the language that
does.
specifies the, okay, great.
Senator Voss.
I personally don't much care for the amendment itself, because that leaves a lot of room that's anywhere from a penny to $4.99, which is quite an influx. I would support changing it. I think just saying that the senator, we recommend $4.99, they can say no, it doesn't really mean. They can lower it without us asking them, for $4.99. So I would like to keep it at $4.99 without saying up to, because that's selling it short of what our recommendations do. Right.
Senator Kinsler. Senator Brody.
I agree with Senator Ross. I don't think that anyone actually in the negotiation would read it that the delegation is no longer supported, but maybe someone who's bargaining to get it less is not supported by this body. I think that the number that was settled on, I strongly support that. I would original vote for this.
President Hughes.
I'd like to clarify how the process works, just so everyone is aware, because I know it's a little confusing. SSFTC is an advisory committee and technically really doesn't have any real power, so to speak. Our recommendation was the 4.99% fee increase. That recommendation was sent to President Lee's desk, where really he has all the say, basically. And it's my understanding that this request from President Lee may lower the request, so a small degree. So the reasoning behind this amendment is so that we don't have this number on this resolution when I do go to the regions and the number is different, because that would look pretty silly. So there's no real fear about this being 1 cent. Like I said, I have like fifth-hand knowledge of this right now, so FDR knows more than me. Maybe he'll speak afterwards. But it's my understanding that this number could be very slightly lower than what we initially proposed because of what President Lee says, and he has the final say. And so this is really to make it accurate when this does go, if it does pass, when it does go to the regions, when I defend the fee increase proposal at that time. So that's kind of the rationale.
Still on discussion of the amendment. Like to speak this now.
Yeah, to echo somewhat what President Hughes said. Senator Voss, I completely understand what you're saying, and for the most part, I agree with what you're saying. The potential obviously is there to fund it down to 0 or 1 cent or something like that. It's absolutely possible, that's true. However, I think that we need to trust the process, the fact that we are asking for this increase and will almost assuredly be granted to us. I think what President Hughes is saying is that it may go down to $1.50 per student per semester or something like that. It may not stay at 176, but it's not going to go down to 0 either. So I would ask the body to have faith that the increase will occur, and it will not be more than we have asked for. So I am in favor of the amendment to allow them the appropriate negotiating room. Thank you.
Senator Johnson? You may.
I was curious if you have an approximate idea of the lowest percentage that you'd be likely to reasonably be considering.
I'll yield that to you.
I have no knowledge of an actual counter proposal. I've just heard comments that may indicate that we might not get the complete request.
Okay, I guess I was just coming
As
to
a
the fact of wondering if it'd be more appropriate to propose an amendment suggesting of up to 4.99%, but no less than 4% or something along those lines. That would be appropriate with the negotiating room.
You could, but again, if it does, basically what this resolution functions more as is an issue of support from this body to President Hughes as well as the rest of the committee when it goes to the regents as well, not just for a statement within the university. Because I know that the Student Fees and Tuition Committee is pretty cognizant of what you all feel right here. As you have 3 to 4 representatives given on any given day in the room, typically 4. So when it comes down to it, I think that your will is pretty much felt within that committee. But really where we're looking to make sure that our resolution is felt is at the regents. So that's why I would prefer not to have to pass the second resolution and then say, well, do we take both resolutions? Do we just take the second one? I would say take one.
Senator Kinsler.
Real quick, I asked the chair to just give me a second on relevance to my comments. The reason I passed that around was if you wanted your name added, I saw a lot of confused faces. If you didn't add your name and you wanted your name added to the bill, just sign it afterwards. With that, I call the question on the amendment.
Question has been called on the amendment. So we're going to do a placard vote for the amendment. So placards up for yes if you support the amendment. Down. Up for no. Down. Up for abstentions. Kyrie, what is your placard? Okay, not an abstention vote. By a vote of 22 to 4 to 1, this amendment passes. We now back on discussion of the bill as a whole. Senator Fitt.
I was just going to say 2 things until the question, but I'll just say 2 things. I would just like to encourage those who voted no on the previous amendment to not let that affect your vote on the overall resolution. I think that could have a lot of bearing on what we do from this point forward. And then as a point of order, as much as I did love Senator Ratifying, he is no senator anymore, so it's the lowercase on the bill, and I leave.
Senator Meade.
Okay, so just to give my opinion on this, I know that it's not going to be the majority opinion, but I'm not in favor of increasing the fees, so I'll be voting no. That's basically my opinion. Just I don't see a need for increasing the fee because I know we're in tight financial times, but I see that as a lot of misuse of spending on our part. In addition, I don't like the fact that last year we spent a lot of time lobbying to not. Board regions don't increase the fee don't increase tuition at all, 0% increase across the board, and now we're going around this year asking for an increase, so I don't really like that message that we're sending. So I'll be voting no, but I know that's not the majority opinion, so.
Vice Speaker Snell.
Yeah, I just want to ask, just throw this out to the group. I know we have a few new faces here, so if anybody in here has a question about what's going on, like Ms. Ward, I know you're new. If you have any questions about what's happening, please, before you vote, do ask. We'd be happy to answer these questions. I left this out here so we can talk about it. That's the whole point, so don't be shy.
Senator Fitt.
Bring me down, please.
Senator Kinsler.
May I address President Hughes?
You may.
President Hughes, do you know the last time that the student fee was increased?
Yes, it was fiscal year 2011, 3 years ago.
And do you know by how much?
The last increase, 25 cents. it was a small increase. But previous to that, the increases were more regular.
Okay.
So this is the first increase in 3 years. The past 2 years have had no increase.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think just going off of Senator Lee's comments, while I do agree it's not always a good thing to just raise because we need money. I think that historically we have saw a slight increase here in the fee, and it's been gone now for 3 years from fiscal year 2014. I do think that it's time for a little bit of an increase in the fee, seeing as how we have more groups than ever. As it was pointed out on the discussion last ago, we have more freshmen than ever, and we're looking at multiple clubs, and so we send more people to conferences and trips and other things. So, yeah, I yield.
President Hughes?
Okay, so I'd like to provide some background on this and lay out all the facts so you're familiar with what's going on. Senator Nee, you did remind me to make a mention of something that's coming up. So, as Senator Kensler kind of alluded to, this is the first fee increase proposal in 3 years. I misspoke. The last increase was for fiscal year 12. So we're going into this is for fiscal year 15. So for 13 and 14, the fee stayed flat. And so the fee increase, as the resolution says, it would be absolutely no more than 5%, and it will be somewhere in the 4s somewhere. If you look at what's called HEPI, which is the Higher Education Price Index, so every school uses to determine how much money they need to either raise tuition by or get more funds by through some manner. It hovers around 2% nowadays. It's a little more than 2%, and that's an annual basis. So if you use our math, if you do a little math here, 5% divided out over 3 years, this increase is fairly significantly less than inflationary for GSB, and it's sorely needed after 2 years of flat rates. Senator Nee alluded to the tuition freeze from last year as kind of an argument against raising the fee, but something that's important to keep in mind is that even though tuition stayed flat, the university still got the HEPI increase funding from the state legislature. So the money still went up by the same rate that they needed it to go up, about 2.2, 2.3% annually. It's just that students didn't have to pay it through tuition. Instead, it was paid by the legislature. In the interest of full disclosure, today the regents issued their appropriations request for next fiscal year, and that appropriations request includes another request for the legislature to once again freeze tuition for the following academic year. That'd be 2 years in a row now for in-state undergraduates. Sorry for all you out-of-staters. Yeah, I'm sorry. But that's just how it works. So that's coming down the pipe, but coupled with that request coupled with that, I guess, promise is the regents will freeze tuition if the appropriations come in from the state at a level commensurate with HEPI, basically. So that's important to keep in mind. The universities across the nation, Iowa State is no exception, it's around 2.2-ish, 2.3-ish% annually. And GSB, this request would put us at less than 1.7% of annual increase divided out over the past 3 years. So it's less than inflationary, and like I said, it's sorely needed.
You can continue to move down the list if you'd like. I just have a bunch of facts. So. I will yield to Senator Bill if you would like to speak.
Over the summer, when Vice Mayor Snell did solicit the recommendations of senators, I sent him a memorandum on the 16th of July, which I'll try and quote quickly, just for sake of record. It reads, the student activity fees currently stands at $35.35. This fee pays for student services like student counseling and legal services, programming such as student meeting board, committee on lectures, and IHU After Dark, timeless traditions like Vision, SALC, and Second Family Weekend. And lastly but not least, nearly 100 student clubs and organizations. While the university population continues to grow, the demand of student fee dollars increases. We must consider how the, quote, Iowa State experience, unquote, is being impacted. From my experience, as well as that of an involved student, each of the above constituencies has done an excellent job of doing more with less. Unfortunately, the burden of increased demand on the suppliers has not sought additional contributions from the demand. This has led to the negative experience in GSB's funding processes, which during the FY 2014 regular allocations brought funding to the brink of draconian cuts. So I want to lay that out there just for the table, my reasoning for supporting the increase of the fee as someone who had some very torn heartstrings at the end of regulars last year. These groups are doing wonderful, excellent things with less money. Pat Miller, who I talk to every week, is a perfect example of she just does amazing work. She puts in just hours much beyond what she's paid, making the best experience for the lectures program and the people that are doing it throughout our university. And I think we are really doing a disservice to them if we are not asking for the same contribution to the students. So with that, I will be voting yes on this, and I will leave.
Okay. Well, I guess first of all, if I may ask a question of the body, if you don't want the facts and figures that I have sitting in front of me, I can tell you we're approximately $1.1 million we spent this year when. So if you would like that, I can explain that to you and kind of explain why we should probably continue moving forward with going at least to 1.7% inflationary increase yearly. But by the way, that's not inflation. That's way below it. So if you would like that, I will continue. Otherwise, I will save you that explanation. So let me know. And yes, this is not typically in order, but I just want you to tell me.
Yes.
If some people, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yes. Starting with asset, whether you agree with it or not, it is something that we do, and it's a significant contribution to the Iowa State community. It's $143,000 in this fiscal year. Moving right along, Community on Lectures, all told, received about $100,000, which provides the world-class lectures that take place on campus throughout the year. When I say this year, I really mean the fiscal year that ended in June. I did use the older numbers because they are higher, and partially because when I drafted the email that I am paraphrasing, I was in that fiscal year. So, moving from that, $40,000 was national and world affairs accounts, so those are also lectures that take place for the benefit of all students. We invest $179,772.69 in the Student Union Board. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and double check on which years these are, because these numbers align with what we did in the massive cuts that Kyrie led about. So I will double check my numbers, but these numbers are correct because I pulled them all from the same spreadsheet. So I apologize for my asides here. They don't change the numbers. Pulls in acts for either discounted tickets or free shows here on campus for students. Acts that really you can't get anywhere else. If you would like to understand how that works, George Michelon or anyone in the sub-office would probably be able to tell you exactly why we have to spend so much money to get musical acts to Ames. But basically, we're not in the musical center of the world. I will tell you that right now. We pay the brunt of the support for the student counseling service at $88,000 or $88,041. Financial counseling clinic at $79,255.46. Student legal services at $261,326.69. Those are open to any and all students who wish to use those services, and several of those are very essential, really, to what we do as supporting the student body here at Iowa State. I don't think anyone would argue against the student legal services or student counseling services here on campus, because those are integral services to the student experience. We support many of the forms on media on campus, like the ISU Daily. Whether or not you like it, we do support it. And I think it's very important that we do have that form of media on campus at $110,000. The radio station we support at $10,000, $218,000. ISU TV at $3,981.67. Ethos at $19,128.55. UHURU at $13,932. SIR Magazine at $8,883. Just to name a few. Those are the ones I stopped at when I was doing my adding, so there are a couple more that you could probably throw in there. Anyone who picks up a daily, reads one of these magazines has benefited from those things. And even if you haven't, there's still ways to benefit from it, having an organization written about, et cetera, et cetera. If you can imagine it, you can probably come up with a benefit there. We also have part of the insurance for the transportation services vehicles when student organizations use them. That was originally projected to be a $30,000 investment. It ended up being $60,000. So that is another thing that had put a stress on the GSB budget. That's also something that we didn't do before last year. When it came down to the numbers, The increase that we're requesting could basically be split across some of the things that we've already picked up in the last couple of years, and you would then not have any compared to what we had last year. So when it comes down to it, I have all of these numbers. If you would like to see them, like to talk to me about numbers, like to haggle with me over them, I have them in my office, so please by all means come see me. But that adds up to roughly $1.1 million. It might be a little bit more if you wanted to go all out and add every media group that you could find that we fund, but that's all that I've got. So if I can allocate basically the $1.1 million right there, and we estimate that we did $1.9 million all told in the budget for this year, that's a lot of money. But at the same time, that's a lot of our money already accounted for, and that's not including a lot of the student organizations that we do allocations to. So I guess it kind of depends where you think we do our best work in the student experience. Could we probably allocate our money more efficiently? Yes. And that's why we're redoing the funding process this year. But that's not this resolution. So with that, I will yield to any questions.
Question.
Second.
Question has been called and seconded. We are now voting on this resolution as a whole. Bauer,
Yes.
Benzoni,
Yes.
Breitbart,
Yes.
Brody,
Yes.
Birch,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Piesek,
Yes.
Fitton,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Hensler,
Yes.
Kearns,
Yes.
Nee,
Nope.
Lund,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Parkinson,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Plantenberg, Snell,
Yes.
Talon,
Yes.
Turhall,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Williams, Wolf.
Yes.
By a vote of 26 to 1 to 0, this passes. And with that, we are on Senate Resolution 2013-2-026SR, supporting new art in the Western offices.
Senate Resolution 2013-2-026SR, titled Supporting Art in the Memorial Union West Student Office Space. Whereas the government of the student body.
Motion to consider as read.
Okay, since I have the floor, just quickly, I'd like to say the reason, I know some people kind of complained about this, and we've griped about it back and forth down the West Student Office Space, that's fine. Just for those of you who don't know and haven't been subject to our argument, the reason that I wrote this is that I was originally just going to go down and ask, and I know that my request has been granted. And I think that the opponents of this bill also agreed that they would be granted too, so that the eventual rotation of the art is almost a given for us. The reason that I wrote this, and Senator Kenson will argue with me, and it's okay too, is that I felt that it wasn't my decision to make what is essentially a fundamental change to our office. We've had problems in the past with certain people on GSB just doing things without letting anybody know, and I wanted to avoid that kind of situation. So to me, this is just being polite to you guys. If you agree with that, that's great. We can vote, we can pass this. But I'm going to turn the floor over to Senator Kinsler, who has a proposal.
All right, so I've discussed with some of you my thoughts on this bill, and I know some of you have been party to hearing Vice Speaker Snell and I argue over this, and I apologize for that. But basically, my view on this bill is that no good, well, the intention I understand is completely to be polite and respectful to the Senate. I don't think any good can come from it. I think that it's not necessarily a significant change. I don't think this is what Senate resolutions were made for. I think Senate resolutions and opinion resolutions, which essentially this is, were made so that we, as the government student body, as duly elected representatives of the student body, we can make a unified voice in saying this is what the student body wants. Whether that be to the ISU administration, the state of Iowa, the state legislature, so on and so forth. So just to say that we want to change art, I don't think if it passes, I don't think future resolutions will be taken as serious as what they should be. We just saw a fantastic use of a resolution by passing the student fee. And I don't think if we pass this, it will help us, help our image at all. If we fail it, it definitely will help our image. So with that, I'm going to make the motion to postpone indefinitely. That way we do not have to take a vote on it, and it will just die.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. We're now on debate. Senator Brody.
Yeah, I would agree, and just, I mean, obviously, we take a lot of time on a lot of important issues, and I think it's important that we protect our time to some degree or another. So while I do appreciate Vice Speaker Snell's intent, I think just there are other ways to deal with this little like housekeeping matters, that we need to protect our own time so that we have the energy and that we're at our best when we are discussing issues that might be more serious. So yeah, I fully support this motion. I think that that's the proper way to deal with this bill.
Senator Finn.
Question.
UC has been called. Is there any objection to UC? This will be postponed indefinitely. And with that, we're moving into new business. Sorry for like nodding right now. So Senate Order 2013-2-030 SA, men's volleyball debt contract.
Sorry, I forgot that this was my bill. I had to talk to Director Williams about something real quick. Sorry, I'm over here. I needed to talk to someone, but titled Debt Contract with Men's Volleyball Club. Ordered that the attached contract between the government and the student body and the Men's Volleyball Club be created, and be therefore are further ordered that the rebate principal be placed into the student organization debt reserve account and the interest payments be placed in the capital projects account. It is my intent to have the group here next week. And finance has already sent a recommendation, not a recommendation, but a vote on this bill as well. And I'll make sure that we get the actual debt contract attached next week. From my memory, it is a total of $3,100 and some change over 6 semesters, which would be repaid by $500 and some change dollars a semester. With that, I'll answer any questions of intent.
Is it your intent to submit a debt contract, or is it only someone who not seen it?
I mentioned previously that I would make sure Speaker Williams attach that next week to the legislation packet.
It is on Ledgerman.
It is on Ledgerman.
That's what was early practice.
Are there any other questions on the agenda?
Thank you.
Thank you. Senate Bill 2013-2-021Y, defining Senate Parliamentarian.
Senate Bill 2013-2-021Y, defining Senate Parliamentarian. Whereas there is sometimes mild confusion regarding
With the consideration of bylaw these last week.
Okay, essentially this is a clarification of the tradition of the body. We all know, those of us who've been around, that anytime there's a question of parliamentary procedure, that the chair, who's typically the vice president, refers to the speaker, and the speaker confers with the vice speaker. That's the way we've always done it. Since a lot of us are new, he's the new speaker, I'm the new vice speaker, Hillary's the new vice president, and a lot of unusual questions have come up on occasion about different things that we've encountered regarding parliamentary procedure. It came up in Rules Committee that perhaps it would be nice to refine the role of the speaker and to a small degree the vice speaker with regards to being the official parliamentarian, so we weren't stuck in the trap of polling the entire Senate, which is pretty sloppy. And I will yield to Senator Brody, who I believe you want to propose an amendment.
Yes,
Okay.
I would, like to strike, sorry, I don't have it right in front of me.
This was discussed at the rules.
Right, yeah.
Point of information, are we on First Street?
We are on first
Oh,
read.
mine. I'm sorry. We didn't have to read last week. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, never mind.
So we're on first
Questions on
read.
10?
Yes. The floor is open for questions of intent. Question of intent. Senator. Okay.
Awesome.
I'm actually going to call for the orders of the day and to follow the agenda, because I believe that we had a bill for seating a senator on finance committee that should have been under general orders.
Okay. I thought that was moved to non-meeting business. Sorry about that. So we'll go to Senate Order 2013-28-SG, seating the senator on finance committee.
Senate Order 2013-2-028SG, titled Seating a Senator on the Finance Committee. Whereas the Finance Committee acts as a sanctioned representative for financial affairs of the legislative branch of the government and ensures the proper efficient distribution of designated student fee money. And whereas there is one opening on the Finance Committee for Senate members, be it therefore ordered that Senator Blank be seated as the Senate member of the Finance Committee, and be it further ordered that that needs to be changed. Consider a friendly amendment to change that grammar. Be it further ordered that the above individual immediately assume all rights and responsibilities of their positions as delineated in government law. And I will open the floor for nominations.
Senator Biden.
I move to nominate Senator Walsh.
Second. Phyllis, you will accept.
Do you have to move to nominate someone, or can you just say nominate? So you just say,
Yeah, I did
yes.
that. I did that.
Senator Snell, open the floor for nominations. Floor is now open for nominations.
Okay, I just nominate Senator Walsh.
You are nominated for Finance Committee. Do you accept?
I'll accept.
Floor is still open for nominations. Senator Kensler.
I'd like to nominate Senator Meade.
What time do you meet?
The current finance committee times are as yet to be determined. This week we met on Tuesday at 5 p.m. and it seemed to work for the current members of finance committee, but it will also be something subject to the availability of the at-large members. The goal is to have all of the members of the committee present, but as of right now, Tuesday at 5 p.m. was more conducive to the members present.
I would like to, but I just don't think I have time, so respectfully decline.
Senators, or Vice Speaker Snell.
I move to close the floor.
Second.
Okay. Vice Speaker Snell.
Fill the blank.
You see.
What just happened?
We're good. You need.
You see to fill the blank.
Okay.
And then we'll vote.
Okay, so then it has been
Blank is filled.
updated. So then do we need another motion to put his name in the blank?
Go. That is agreed.
Okay, so you're filling the blank with Senator Walsh's name, not just filling the blank in general. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, that was just a whole lot of mouth words. Now we're voting on,
Question?
okay. Bill as a whole. Questions? No? Do you withdraw?
Yeah.
Sorry for my confusion, that was definitely all. Senator Bauer.
Can I address the nominee?
You may.
Senator Walsh, can you just talk about why you want to fill this position, what qualifications you have, stuff like that?
Absolutely. I guess back when we first, last year, were going committees, I definitely had interest in the back of my mind at that point, but I didn't really understand GSB quite enough yet at that point, I didn't feel like. And based on what everybody was saying about finance committee, I kind of got scared away from it. But I've actually really gotten into GSB, and I think it'd be a really good opportunity kind of speed up a little bit, being this is my first year, and only have a year left after this, so I definitely want to speed up the process. And I do have a lot of background in leadership roles, and I don't have a great background on GSB finance, but I have looked over a lot of the bylaws, P&C, things like that, and have a good capability of learning, hopefully fast. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Senator Kinsler?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the nominee's qualifications. He seems like a highly motivated individual. With that, I call the question.
Second.
Question has been called, second, UC has been called. Is there any objection to UC? This bill passes. We're now on, are we on Senator, the average? What's up, Dan?
Can I interrupt just to recognize our advisor? It is his anniversary today, and he spent his time with us. So he's leaving to go spend time with his wife. But just to say a big thank you to our dedicated. I apologize for interrupting, but I felt that we should probably recognize the people who look out for us.
That level, I'm also going to interrupt and say that level of commitment to GSB. If we were all that committed, can you imagine?
No, absolutely. Stop it.
Yep, Senate Bill 2013-2-022F, funding normal.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Perfect, thank you. Title Funding Normal, for Senate Bill 2013-2-022F, title Funding Normal, whereas the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, NORML, which to attend the Drug Policy Alliance Conference in Denver, Colorado, and whereas this conference takes place in October, be therefore enacted that $3,555 be transferred to NORML from the events account pursuant to the following budget. I have recently been informed that the group wishes to still be full, so I will pull it at this time. They no longer wish to have the bill considered.
We are now on Senate Bill 2013-2-022F, funding ISD theater.
Thanks, man.
Title, line item transfer for ISU theater. Whereas during the last regular allocation cycle, ISU theater was allocated $2,875 for programs, and whereas since then, ISU theater has had this expense covered, and whereas they would like to use these funds on other expenses, be therefore enacted that $2,875 be transferred from the programs line item to the following line items. As you see it there, transferring $750 to sets, $1,375 for royalties, and $750 to costumes. These are line items that are already in the budget, but now we're just transferring some money around. The group, I believe, is planning on being here next week.
If the group is not present, they have authorized me to speak on behalf of them for this request. So
with that, I will open the floor for any questions of intent.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm the next one.
Okay. Senate Bill 2013-2-024F, funding GSB boat repair.
All right. Title, boat repair. Whereas ISU Fishing Club is looking to repair their capital item, object, and whereas the group is insured $750 for total repair, leaving $450 not covered, and whereas the group is also looking for money to cover their costs in transporting the boat to the repair facility and back, be it therefore enacted that $723.89 be allocated to the ISU Fishing Club from the capital projects account. The boat will not be here, but the group plans to be. With that, I will take any questions from the
Oh, Senator Johnson.
Oh.
Is it John's intent to clarify the circumstances under which the repairs are necessary?
Yes.
Are there any further questions from Tim? Bill 2013-2-025F, asset funding priorities for FY 2015.
Title, Asset Funding Priorities for Fiscal Year 2015. So this is the bill that was, I believe, brought up last spring. It sets the priorities for asset. If you don't know what that is, you should by next week. I know Finance Director Rabisky will help you understand asset if you don't, or any of the other seating senators if you don't. Please ask. It is a very important part of what GSB funds. It is a very large portion of what GSB uses their funds on. And I believe it is my intent to refer back to Finance Committee on this one for the memo. But I will take any questions on the 10th. With that, I will move to send to Finance Committee.
Senate Order 2013-2-031SA, ratifying 2014 asset contracts.
Title, Ratifying Fiscal Year 2014 Asset Contracts. Whereas the Analysis of Social Service Evaluation Team, also known as ASSET, has completed its funding recommendations for fiscal year FY 2014. And whereas the government student body, GSB, contracted services from the agencies in the asset process for the first time during FY 2007. And whereas during FY 2007, the contracts allowed GSB to track how many students were served by each program. And whereas these contracts are a vital resource in making sure that student fee money is spent properly, be it therefore ordered that the GSB Senate ratifies FY 2014 contracts between GSB and the Assault Care Center, extending shelter and support access, Ames Community Preschool, Boys and Girls Club of Story County, Campfire Center for Child Care Resources, Center for Creative Justice, Community and Family Resources, also known as CFR, Homeward Legal Aid Society of Story County, Mid-Iowa Community Action Incorporated, the Richmond Center, University Community Child Care, UCC, Volunteer Center of Story County, and Youth and Shelter Services, YSS. It's also my intent to send this one back to Finance Committee as well. I will take any questions from the
Senator Finn.
Is it the author's intent to align the groups with those proposed by the office secretary?
It is.
Any further questions of the 10?
All right, at this time I'd like to send to Finance.
Okay.
You see.
Well, is there any objection to UC? Let's go into the committee. Cool. 2013-2-027F, funding UHURU magazine.
Okay. Title, funding UHURU magazine. Whereas UHURU magazine provides...
It's on that screen.
Oh, well you what, you can't read it? Get out of here. Oh. I object. Okay, funding UHURU magazine. Whereas UHURU magazine provides a vibrant and intelligent outlook on topics such as culture, politics, and art from a multicultural perspective. And whereas UHURU magazine went through a quick leadership change and was not able to make its previous financial meetings, and whereas UHURU would like to keep their unique publication on campus by printing 2 issues annually, 1 per semester, and whereas UHURU is looking to print its first issue in fall 2013, be it therefore enacted that $8,962 be allocated from the Senate discretionary account pursuant to the following budget. And I will accept. Question of the
Senator Kinsler.
Is the author's intent to have a group here next week?
It is.
Senator Finn.
Is it the author's intent to
Are there any further questions of the 10?
Sorry, there's like 15 people just walking backwards all the way across. Every group is walking backwards.
Okay, so next I will motion to refer to Finance Committee.
Is there any objection to UC on referring this to Finance Committee? Be referred to Finance Committee. Senate Bill 2013-2-028F, adjusting account allocations.
Senate Bill 2013-2-028F, titled Adjusting Account Allocations. Whereas GSB unnecessarily transferred $10,000 into the Student Organization Debt Reserve, not the debt reserve account last year in Senate Bill 2102. We're in the future. -3-96F on March 13, 2013. Be it therefore enacted that GSB shall move $10,000 from the Student Organization Debt Reserve account to the Capital Projects account. And I will say that it is, does finance need this?
Finance already discussed it.
Awesome, so I will yield the question we can.
Senator Bauer.
The author intended with the correct bill number.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions on the head? Okay. Senate Bill 2013-2-029F, transferring funds to capital projects account.
Senate Bill 2013-2-029F, titled Transferring Funds to the Capital Projects Account. Whereas due to incorrect numbers stemming from the 2011 to 2012 GSB Finance Committee's FY13 allocations, the 2012-2013 GSB Finance Committee inadvertently overallocated $102,286.50 for the FY14 budget. So be it therefore enacted that GSB shall transfer $102,286.50 from the investment account into the capital projects account. And be it also enacted that a significant, though currently undetermined, portion of this amount shall replenish the investment account once campus organization accounting processes all student organization funding returns from last year.
Senator Fitton.
Is it the officer's intent to clarify the second enacted clause?
I will say yes, and I will allow Finance Director Radisky to clarify that.
Would you like?
Next week.
Okay, I was going to say we'd do it next week.
Are there any further questions on the text? We are now moving into closing announcements. Yes, I like this.
You don't see it very much here.
Closing announcements. Senator Lund.
So going back to the pizza sales restriction that we were talking about earlier, during the meeting I was talking to someone from Materials Advantage Group, and they said they got around the restrictions by saying they're a nonprofit. They went through a whole string of people in the process of getting like that list of people. So in case for some reason we can't like get an exemption for all Iowa State, we can at least tell the groups the procedures for going through the exemption process themselves. So just thought I'd bring that to everyone's attention.
Senator Brody.
I'm not 100% sure. I mean, a lot of this comes through like recognized student orgs that want to have events that are open to the public need to go through event authorization. And so there are some things that like it's just kind of a catch-all. And it is a ISU policy that they're kind of enforcing in coordination. If you go to, it's actually a pretty simple web address, riskmanagement.iastate.edu/students/food. That's food at events. It lays out the policy. It does square up kind of the distinction or the kind of why both AIMS policy and ISU policy are kind of in conjunction being thrown around. And yeah, it does make an exemption for bake sales, cookies, muffins, cakes, etc. And it's not just pizza, it's ready to eat, potentially hazardous foods for pizza, sandwiches, etc. So it's not the most clear policy ever, but it certainly does answer some questions that got thrown around. So that's riskmanagement.iastate.edu/student/food, and I can, yeah, well, it's in the minutes, so.
Point of information, Chair, could the graduate senator please repeat that for the?
We got it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in the minutes if you want to check it out. It's actually a pretty nice medium, so I mean, it's a good explanation of what the policy is and a little bit to why it is that way.
Senator Fitton.
All right, I'll try and make this as brief as possible, but I had some really heartening events happen the past couple of days. As you know, it used to be that we were required to go to our constituency council meetings, and I personally am unable to go to mine because I meet at the exact same time during the week at 7 o'clock on Wednesday evenings. And so I made an effort in the past few weeks to try and connect more with my constituents. I basically sent out an email to all 27 of the Interfraternity Council House presidents throughout the group meeting yesterday evening, asking me to guest at some point during the semester to talk about GSB and about myself and about the issues in the group meeting. And I think it would do well for senators in the room that have similar issues communicating with the constituency councils to do the same, because in the 24 hours since I sent that email, 1 in 3 of the House presidents have responded positively to my invitation, and in the process of scheduling all those out over the next couple of months. And so not only did that do a lot for my ego, but it was very heartening. It was very heartening with some of the responses, because I have a hard time believing that students are not connected, as connected as we want them to be with GSB for a lack of will on their part. I honestly believe there's more that we in this room can do. And I've seen some of that this past couple of weeks. So I remember this time last year we already had daily editorials, no offense to Lisa or the organization, smashing Senate because we hadn't passed enough bills by this time of the year. And just to see, we already have bill numbers at 20-something within 2 weeks of just session is just really amazing. Talks to the work ethic of the people in this group, and I think there's just so much more potential that we have as a group. So I just encourage you guys all, especially the encouragement I receive from my constituents, to go out and spread the word about what we're doing. I honestly believe there is a good faith effort for constituents to be involved in the process we have here. With that being said, I do want to give another reminder. Cyclamates is spelled A-I-B-E-S, by the way. That was also in last week's minute. Yeah. Anyways, applications are still open. Those are due October 7th. If you have any questions from any of your constituents or from yourselves personally, feel free to direct those at myself, Director Radisky, or President Hughes, who both have experience in Cyclamates and will be happy to answer any of those questions. And with that, I will yield.
President Hughes. Sorry, that sounded. President Hughes.
Thank you. This I'll keep this brief. I hesitate to do this now, but I know that this is probably on some of your minds, so I'll just lay it out there, even though this is my least favorite time of GSB. For those of you who are considering a run for executive office, I know it's early, but if you're considering it, you're probably thinking about it now. Just want to let you all know a few things. First of all, I am open to talking with you about it if you're interested in, you want to know what it's like, you want to know what the campaign is like. It'll be in complete confidence. Our conversations will not affect my vote, because I don't plan on voting for any of you. I'm voting Adam Gunther for president. Just so you all know, I'm not going to vote for any of the presidential candidates, so you don't have to worry about that impacting anything. I'm not going to tell anybody about our meeting. So basically, I want you to feel comfortable coming and talking with me if even you're thinking about running for president or vice president. I would assume that Vice President Kletcher would feel the same. So I just want to throw that out there. For those of you who aren't thinking about this, you probably think it's way too early. But for those of you who are, you're probably thinking about it right now. So let me know.
2016 candidates.
Senator Kendrick. Senator Bauer.
All right, I'll go. Just a reminder, the food court fundraiser next Tuesday, between 4 to 7. All I gotta do is go get a meal bundle. James just volunteered to use all his guest passes. So if anyone needs one, hit up Senator Kensler. And also, what Senator Fitton said, he brought up a great point about how we can connect with our constituents more. And I know that some of you don't know exactly what to say to your constituents. If you're that person, let me know, because I have oodles of documents of what to say to constituents, facts about GSB that'll just blow everyone's mind. So hit me up if you need that information.
Senator Kensler.
All right. One thing that I wanted to mention, if you noticed the bill that I wrote last week for the eliminating the daily ask from priorities and criteria was not on the agenda. It was held in the rules if you read the minutes. We had some good discussion on that. I welcome further discussion on that. That's why it was held in the rules. I'm opening the door, whether you're for it, against it, not really sure. Please attend the rules. Or even if you can't, just email me or come talk to me after the meeting. I would love to get your opinion on it, and your constituents' opinion as well. I know I've asked around, so please do the same. Also, I'd like to just say that thank you to Senator Nee, who always, even when it's not popular, he'll still state his opinion, and I appreciate that, because if we're all in the same room, just hashing out what everybody already thinks they know, then we have no real need to be here. We just keep doing the same thing over and over again. So if you're hesitant on speaking, just know that it's your right to speak your opinion and your constituents, their thoughts, and I would highly encourage possibly some more newer senators speaking up, because I know it's a little intimidating at first, but it's definitely, you have to start speaking up sometime, and the sooner you do, the easier it is, and it's just really easy to, throw your opinion out there. So please, please, please get the opinion of your constituents and voice them here. And with that, I'll do it.
Senator Walsh.
I'm going to stand this because I'm tired of sitting. Thank you, everybody, for the nomination and for electing me to sit on finance. I could tell everybody was just dying for the position, so sorry about that. But I appreciate that. I'm going to continue to work hard and try to fit well in that position. Also, today at the Club Fest, I was only able to be there with a half hour. I've been like 50 minutes maybe, but I apparently walked by it 4 times before I found the GSB booth. But it went really well. I talked to probably 4 or 5 people who I could really see fitting into the role. And I think that's great. So I'm sure that with 70-some, did you say, Zach, that ended up getting on our contact list, that's great. So good job, everybody. So that, I'll yield.
Clerk of the Senate. Oh, FDR. Gosh, go for it.
Thank you. I'm in no hurry, so I mean, whenever you call me, it's fine. I just wanted to say that I will be speaking on the adjusting account allocations and transferring funds to capital projects bills next week. If you have questions about them in the upcoming week, come see me during my office hours. We'll make sure those get posted as soon as I can. I will post those outside of my office and also put them up on the website when I remember my password to change my own webpage. So, that being said, recycling.
Clerk of the Senate.
So a couple things that I have, just for, my preference and being able to take minutes, please speak up. I mean, use that diaphragm. It's hard for me to hear clear up here, the people clear in the back. And some of you have soft voices anyway, so please speak up. Don't interrupt others. Get permission to respond to a question. For example, Mr. Brody and Mr. Turhall were going at it. It'd be nice to have Mr. Brody speak and then Mr. Turhall raise your placard and respond to him. I mean, I know that it's nice to have that quick response, but for me, it's better to have somebody say a name or have a placard up so I can get your name and record it. If you have any objections to my minutes, please send those to me in an email. I'm a student just like you. I have a whole heck of a lot of stuff going on, and I need to know specifically what you're talking about, and I do make mistakes, so it happens. For those of you who like to ramble on, please finish your sentences so that I can finish taking minutes.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I gotta do it. I only talked to you. You're lucky.
So please finish your sentences. It's nice for me so I don't have to skip around. Also, look over asset. It's a really big part of Ames and Iowa State. It's something that I really hold quite personal to myself. So please look over it so I know, so you know what's going on and what we fund. So that's all I have to say.
I don't have much to speak. You guys are all having a great set of classes. Senator Bauer, I have times written down for you from the bills tonight, so you can get that for me. You got that too? Well, I was here to help. And then the IRHA senators, I do have something to speak with you about after this meeting. So if you can come up here as soon as the meeting
you for what may have been the most efficient and quickest argument that we've probably ever had in GSB regarding the wall art bill. Don't think we've ever debated something so quickly and amicably. Gabe, I'd say that the reason you got seated on the finance committee isn't because you were the only one that wanted to do it, but maybe everybody thought you were the most qualified. So don't look down upon yourself. If you wanted to be there, you can just get it. Regarding the office hours, time to play good cop now. I was kind of a jerk about it earlier. Please sign up for those guys. I mean, there's 12 of you who haven't signed up last count when I went to bed at 11 o'clock last night. It's not hard. We've sent you the emails. I'll send it again. But you have to. I mean, you simply have to be a senator. There's no two ways about it. You have to do it not only to keep your job here, but you have to do it so we can keep the West Student office space. So it's not like this is just something that, you know, it would be nice if you did. You have to do it. And since we're on Rules Committee, we are empowered to deal with it. And it's not a threat, it's just the way it is. So please, you know, get on there tonight or tomorrow morning, sign up, because it causes the rest of us trouble. Regarding the resolution about student fee increase, I appreciate y'all's assistance on that over the summer and in the last couple of weeks too. It was really nice. When I did this last year, I got thrown into it, didn't really know what it was all about. The executive branch at the time wasn't terribly communicative about it either, so there was not a lot of legislative branch cooperation at the time. So I had to learn as I went, and of course, you know, I had 3 or 4 meetings by the time we finally got to the vote, so it wasn't a very productive year last year. This has been a lot better, and I really appreciate you guys talking to me about it. Almost all of you replied, and that's fantastic. And if I get all of you to sign up for your office hours, great. And I think it's probably the first time we've done a resolution too, so I could be wrong about that. I haven't been here forever, but
close.
Close, very close. Back when it was Cardinal Gale left here. Club Fest was great. I talked to a lot of people too, so hopefully that'll generate some interest. If you gave out your name and email, be prompt about getting back to them. If they're interested, we need to keep that interest level high. Come to Rules Committee as well. We have the constitutional amendment held in the rules right now. A couple other important things. PR has a bill that we did first read on last week regarding creating a fund. Talk to Chairman Bauer and the rest of the Rules Committee. Talk to Finance Director Radisky and the other Finance Committee members. We also have some other bills in Finance Committee regarding the fund for the Election Commission. Talk to those guys. Talk to the Election Commission. We're going over a lot of fundamental changes for GSB this year, so be involved with that. Don't just let those of us on committees handle that on your behalf. That's not cool. It's not fair to the student body. Keep your input in there. More heads, better ideas. And lastly, Student Fees and Tuition Committee that we talked about tonight meets tomorrow at 1:30. It is an open meeting, and if you all would like to come tomorrow, it is on second floor of Beer Street in Tom Bill's office. Is it 2390?
Yes.
2350.
2350. It's easy to find if you come off the elevator, it's straight ahead and to the left.
No, 2390.
2398, okay. Like I said, you're all welcome to attend. You can ask questions. You can give your input. You don't have an official vote, of course, but I think everybody should go.
What time?
What's up?
What time?
1:30. 1:30 p.m. Second floor, Beer Street, 2390.
Mr. Corner.
If you can make it, that'd be awesome. If not, that's okay too. That's why you're all there.
Date again?
Tomorrow. That's all I've got. Thanks again for the great meeting. This was fantastic.
Speak Williams.
Motion adjourned.
I'm gonna stand up as well. I think it was a great meeting. I think a few people have said that, and it really was. And so thank you so much. Just keep in mind that being quick is not always the best though either. So just because we take our time on things, that's not a bad thing. Please do go to these committees, rules, finance, PR, because the only way we can have an efficient debate or something to actually debate about is when everyone has that information. And so when you have a lot of people that don't have that information, maybe one person has a good opinion and make one good argument that could have easily been contested, but you had no idea, so you just let something go. And so the best way to get things done is to definitely have everyone have more information. Also, I'd like to say that talk about two of our asset bills. And so we have a program for Melissa Munch, she's the assistant city manager, and she deals a lot with asset, and so she has prepared a presentation about asset and what they fund and who they are, and what they do. So before we talk about these bills, we'll have kind of someone that we can have a soundboard on. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't go and look into this at all. That means you should probably go look into it more to be able to ask really good questions. If you'd like her to talk about a particular topic, you can let me know, and then, because she's actually asked for that as well, so please let me know if you have any other questions before the presentation so she can kind of include them, incorporate them in there, so we can get you guys the best information. And also look through those bills so you can ask her a question directly, so we're not just relying on misinformation or have to leave and say, oh, we should have asked her this question. So just to prepare you guys for that. Also, let's see, Club Fest was awesome. I was there for a good part of the day, and luckily my email was the one that everyone who wanted to be a senator ever is contacting, and I've had quite a few emails, and that just keeps piling up, and so thank you for that. But it's kind of fun, and it'll be kind of fun to just talk about people, and I will be directing people toward the ballot as well, just so it's just but it's pretty cool. Yeah, no, it is a good problem to have. And so I talked to some really awesome people today, and everyone else I talked to, spoke to them as well. So that's pretty cool. And so I think that's all I have actually. So thank you guys for such a great meeting, and I hope you have a good night, and I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.